much.
Thank you. I'd like to start off with the preemptive as to how WESUN came to be and what triggered us first. Vmedla Ukraina. The Ukrainian national anthem is a rally cry for all Ukrainians to sing loudly as they fight an aggressor who constantly attempts to oppress you, eliminate you, and tell you that you don't exist. On August 24th, 32 years ago, the words were heard as the Soviet shackles of repression and tyranny in Ukraine were removed, and Ukraine became a free and independent nation. A country that, for the longest time, was forgotten by the world while it suffered under the oppressive rule of the Soviet regime. Since August 24th, 1991, the people of Ukraine have been celebrating their independence with song and dance, raising of the flag, and great joy. The world was finally taking heed of Ukraine as a fledgling democratic nation, rich in natural resources, cultural talent, literary history, folk art, and contemporary art, music, architecture, and so much more. Ukraine was, at long last, no longer the forgotten nation. On February 24th, 2022, Ukrainians were woken with terrifying news of a Russian invasion that began with a barrage of missile strikes on cities across Ukraine. President Zelensky had made repeated attempts to stop this unnecessary provocation, but it fell upon deaf ears. Over 1 year later, Ukraine is still fighting for its very existence. According to various sources, over 8.2 million Ukrainians have fled the country, and over 8 million have been displaced within Ukraine. 90% of the displaced Ukrainians are women and children. Approximately 1/4 of the country's total population had left their homes in Ukraine by March 20th, 2022. According to the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner, a total of over 8,000 civilian deaths have been verified. Another 14,000 were reported to have been injured. Of those numbers, 519 children were killed and 1,016 injured. Most of the casualties resulted from the Russian forces' use of wide impact explosive weaponry in residential neighborhoods. They project the real numbers could be much higher. Innocent citizens whose lives were cut short by the indiscriminate and brutal bombing of civilian targets by Russian forces. Today, Ukraine is not only fighting for its right to exist as an independent nation, but for the right of all democratic nations to keep tyranny from annihilating democracy. Ukrainians have demonstrated repeatedly their courage and their fortitude in defending the land they love. In March 22 issue of Time magazine, Simon Schuster wrote about President Zelensky and the heroes of Ukraine. In his article, he quotes parts of a speech given by the president to the European Parliament. Life will win over death, and light will win over darkness. I would like to quote some excerpts from his emotional address to the people of Ukraine. No one but us will fight for our independence. We are united. We had people willing to stop tanks with their bare hands. We had people willing to cover their native land with themselves. The Ukrainian people and their courage inspired the whole world. They gave humanity a new hope that justice has not completely left this cynical world. A new nation emerged on February 24th at 4 a.m. Not born, but reborn. A nation that didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't get scared, didn't run away, didn't give up, didn't forget. For Ukrainians, the most terrible iron is not missiles, aircraft and tanks, but shackles. Not trenches, but fetters. And we will put our hands up only once when we celebrate our victory for all of Ukraine, because we do not trade our lands and our people. For us, Ukraine is all of Ukraine, without concessions or compromises. We are facing this day in different circumstances, conditions, and even in different time zones, but with one goal: preservation of independence and victory of Ukraine. When the first newcomers arrived in Windsor, Essex County, it was a very overwhelming experience. There was so much misinformation, scattered information, and ever-changing information. As time went on, the government announced various supports, federal funding, temporary housing and hotels, and so much more. We were fortunate to unite and create an outreach group of St. Vladimir's and Olga, Ukrainian Catholic Church, called WESUN. WESUN has been able to create a website housing valuable and relevant information, developed to make it readable on phones and computers in both Ukrainian and English. Ukrainians both abroad and those in Canada are able to access information regarding settlement agencies, gain an understanding of life in Windsor, find Ukrainian organizations, and see all events in the community that are accessible to them. There are also links to government supports that are available, and even a checklist of what to do upon arrival. Much positive feedback has been received, and we continue to update the website regularly. Many newcomers accessed the website and were able to navigate the supports available independently as well. Currently, WESUN assists approximately 100 families and continues to do so. We believe there could be upwards of 500 families in Windsor and Essex County. Thanks to the generosity of our donors, we've been able to provide over $11,000 in Walmart, Old Navy, and grocery gift cards. You might think, why Old Navy? Many came with just a suitcase of clothes. So we've been able to help support them as the seasons change, we're able to help them with that. Additionally, we were also donated the contents of a home, which helped 4 families furnish their apartments. With the help of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, many were able to purchase smaller items for apartments, as well as clothing for the changing seasons. Gift cards were also donated from Habitat for Humanity, and 3 families were able to purchase couches and dining sets for their apartments. Other donated items have included bicycles, vacuum cleaners, business clothing for interviews, and so much more. Social events were and continue to be very well attended and offer an opportunity for newcomers to mix and mingle not only amongst themselves, but parishioners as well. Thanks to Jackie and her group of women, they donated 20 generous raffle baskets, and we've been offering those to newcomers as door prizes for attending. Also, at the events, we were able to provide coffee, hot chocolate, desserts, basic social hour for them. They weren't looking for anything fancy, just somewhere to gather with people who've gone through similar experiences as they have. The highlight for many newcomers was when we took them to see the Windsor Spitfires play hockey. It was an incredible experience taking 100 of them to watch such a Canadian sport. For many, that was their first time ever attending a hockey game. They took out their cell phones, and for them, they absolutely loved watching the 2 Zambonis cleaning the ice, something that we take for granted. Yesterday, we had a successful food drive at the church with an incredible variety of non-perishable items being donated. Unfortunately, it isn't all rainbows and sunshine, though. Because Ukrainian newcomers are not here as traditional refugees, they are not entitled to the same amount of social and financial supports. They are not eligible for social housing, not eligible for subsidized daycare, and so much more. Many here are women and children whose husbands had to stay behind. An example of that is we have contact with a young lady who came just over a year ago, and she's taken a leave of absence from her work for 5 weeks. Her boyfriend that she left behind has been called to the front lines, so she wanted to head back home to see him because we don't know what can happen, whether it's going to be goodbye for now or, the alternative. They're struggling, and the struggle is real. High inflation, high rent, high cell phone bills make it very difficult to rebuild a life in a foreign country. Fortunately, Ukrainians are very hard workers who take pride in their work and have an incredibly strong work ethic. They come, they take English classes, and the moment they feel they have enough language, they enter the workforce. And these aren't just any people. They are doctors, nurses, lawyers, educators who are willing to take any job available that will help them make ends meet. It is a trying time for everyone, but imagine being uprooted by war with no idea when you'll be able to return. I cannot even begin to imagine what they've gone through. Imagine leaving an entire life behind and going to a country where you don't know the language and without family support. Many have shared their stories of how they got here, and it is absolutely heart-wrenching. We pray for everyone's safety in Ukraine and all other Ukrainians, and those especially who are not able to leave. Windsor-Essex County is an extremely generous and supportive community. Without the support and generosity, we would not have the ability to assist Ukrainian newcomers with gift cards, furniture, social events, and so much more. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts. It is also important to remember that the war still rages on, and we have newcomers arriving weekly. Our family, friends, and fellow Ukrainians who are not able to leave Ukraine are continually in our thoughts and prayers. We pray for their safety, and most importantly, we pray for an end to this unjust and unnecessary war. I'd like to thank Susan for inviting me to speak on behalf of WESUN and everyone here present for taking the time to listen. Happy Mother's Day, whether you're a mother, grandmother, godmother, stepmother, any other form of parenting. Today is your day, and we appreciate everything you do for us. Thank you.